Well, hello there.
Hello.
We are just gone 10:44 in London, UK, and we are well aware we're a little bit late, but
Shit
it's just,
happens.
it's just not been the a normal Sunday evening for some of us. So we apologize for the delay, but thank you for bearing with us, guys. We didn't disappoint, but we are here. The show goes on.
It does.
No other choice but to. It's been a hell of a week for me, Val. How about yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, I could say it has.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
has.
I think I want to get to the point where I actually say it's been a really, really good week.
We will. We will get to that point.
It's just, it's not getting there very easy. We are a little bit late, as I said, we are tonight, and it's. I want to welcome everybody to Wicked Women. It is Sunday. We are here. We are live from London, live from Virginia,
Virginia.
with my sister from another mother
That's right.
over there, the lovely Val. And it's quite nice. It's just me and you tonight, Val.
Yeah.
And we were going to have the lovely Kay with us, but unfortunately, she couldn't be here tonight. And it seems a lot of shit happening in a lot of places right now.
There is.
Yeah.
Everywhere you look.
I want to bring up the comments, and I want to welcome everyone, whether we're from the UK, wherever you're watching from the United States. Hi, Mike. Hi, Carlene. Hi, Jason. Hi, Sandra. Everyone that's watching us today is a bit of a different show for us. We tend to look at a lot of things with the ladies and women involved, and today we thought we'd come up with a different topic, which actually came up for me after I watched Russell Brand the other night. And Russell Brand was talking about how they are allowing assisted dying in Canada, and how people are having the right to choose to take their own life. And now we're well aware that Sweden, I think, is one, and I think, is it Belgium or Denmark, or it has the other one, to actually have the right to end their life. Obviously they go through a lot of channels before they end their life. But Canada's come up with a completely different way of looking at it. Even if you have things like mental health issues or anorexia, or even if you have things like your poverty, it's I would suggest everyone who are very interested in the subjects goes and looks at Russell Brand's channel on YouTube, and look at his aptly titled "What the F is Happening to Canada." It's quite an eye-opener, and it made me come up with this point of view when I rang Val and I said, is it really our life? Do we really have control over our life? And because in the last couple of years, I don't know about you, Val, it hasn't felt like we've had control.
I think it's true for men and women, not just women.
Yeah.
In some cases more so for women, but I think in this day and time, there's not a whole lot of control we have over anything.
No.
Anybody.
No.
We've had so many things pushed on us and forced on us, and we've had to literally, buck against the system.
Yeah.
In so many ways that, I think every day we lose more control over, and I think everything.
It's taken bit by bit, isn't it? And it certainly seems to have come along. When lockdown turned up through the pandemic, bit by bit, it started taking our control from us. We couldn't go out, we couldn't mix with people, we couldn't even see our partners if they didn't live with us. Children couldn't see their grandparents. There was a lot of pressure on everyone to abide by government guidelines and do what they suggest, which not everybody wanted to do, because everybody should have the right to have a say over their own body.
Right.
I'm a great believer that you should have the right. If you have the right over anything in life, it should be about what you put in and what you take out of your body. And it certainly felt back then that we'd lost that right.
I mean, I honestly thought they were going to get to the point where they manually held you down and stabbed you with that shot.
Yeah. And
I mean, it seemed like it was on that track.
And a lot of people felt scared. They felt scared that they were going to have people knocking on the door and saying, you've got to have this. And if you don't have this, then, you know, and I know certain countries like Japan, and, you know, was very much like kept locked down for a lot longer than the UK was quite lucky. We got out of it quite early. But I think that do we have the say over our body and our health? If that's the one thing that we do have a say over, why is it then that we had so much opposition of people saying to us, oh, what, you haven't done it? You haven't followed guidelines. Oh, you're being very selfish. Because if you have the right to choose, and without going into that other subject, which, you know, is huge, but if you have the right to choose to do something to your body, to have a termination, to you know, to put anything into your body, if you have the right to do that, surely you had the right to say yes or no when it came to have something put into your body like a vaccination.
Right. I think one thing that bothered a lot of people, well, me, I'm just going to speak for myself, was I didn't trust it. There wasn't enough research behind the vaccination. There wasn't enough, you know, trials done. They didn't know how it was going to affect you in the long run.
No.
You know, 5-10 years down the line, you know, bless you. They didn't know, you know, what would happen to your body, how it was going to react, or was it going to cause other problems?
Well, I mean, it certainly has caused problems because there are people having strokes, blood clots, and heart attacks. And in fact, the you know, the people suddenly dying list has gone up further and further. And I think that certainly if there was I mean, unfortunately, there seems to be a lot of talk about the World Health Organization and how much control they have over us. And as sovereign beings, we have the right to choose what we put in our body and what we don't have in our body, and yet we were almost persecuted for it. We're almost like, you need to stand outside. And I think people were pressured in their family. People were pressured by media. They were pressured by their friends. If you want to go on holiday, if you want to have a break, you have to have this.
Yeah, that's the epitome of peer pressure right there.
Absolutely. It was like, if you want to travel, you know, and I remember being in Canada. I'd flown out to Canada to see my best friend. And I had special permission to be there because I wasn't vaccinated. And I was treated like a leper when I went over there. And literally I had to go through a lot of interrogation before they let me in. Keep having COVID tests, doing this, doing that. And it made me feel like I was an outcast.
Yeah.
Like I was.
And I think that's one of their intentions.
Sure.
You know, I think they put so much pressure on people, and, you know, a lot of times that works. When you pressure someone enough, they give in.
Yes.
So I think the more they tried to pressure people, you know, the more people got it that really didn't necessarily want to.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, a lot of people had to get it for work.
Yeah.
You know, to keep from losing their job.
Yeah.
Which is totally just disgusting.
Yes,
to me, because I just, you know, I can't. That should not be. That should not be a a guideline to keeping your job. It just shouldn't.
Absolutely. It shouldn't be a guideline, nor should it be a
Mm-mm.
guideline about anything. I mean, if you were Canadian, and obviously if Kay had been here tonight, and I'm sure she will come and chat with us about this, but if you were Canadian and you peacefully protested with the truckers and you supported them, they cut your wages, they froze your bank accounts, they had you arrested. And what people didn't see, because obviously media didn't always show them everything, was that some of these people were arrested and carted off to jail and the courthouse in chains, which is not how we should do things in 2020, especially 2021, especially when they're not criminals. They have the right, and because they brought in new laws sneakily as well, they've now changed the protest laws. You can't protest as easily. Even in France right now, France has just passed a law. If you make any kind of complaint, or you disagree with the vaccinations or anything to do with that, they can fine you. You can be sent to prison for it. There's actually a court fine. This is happening in France right now. So I think that when we looked about what is our choice of our body, it also talks about, years ago when women tried desperately to get the vote, desperately to be seen as equals, we had to take a stand and actually stand our ground and go, actually, this is wrong. We're just as good as the rest of you. We need the vote. And I think I mentioned it on Powerful Women when we were doing Powerful Women. And it was something that I wanted to bring up, was how Emily Davison, she believed in this so much. We have a race over here, a famous race called the Derby, Epsom Derby. And she wanted to pin a suffragette ribbon on the King's horse. As he went past, she wanted to pin it on there. But unfortunately, the horse collided into her with the jockey. They all collapsed on the floor, sadly, and she got head injuries, and it took her 4 days to die. And she sadly lost her life. She had injuries which took her, as I said, 4 days to die. Now, opinions remain divided over whether she intended to sacrifice herself over this or whether she wanted to disrupt the race.
Yeah.
But she was the first woman to give her life in the fight for female rights. And her funeral on the 14th of June, 1913, saw thousands of suffragettes accompany her coffin as people lined the streets to pay their respects, including Emmeline Pankhurst, who was the first well-known famous suffragette in the United Kingdom. And after that, things turned and they got the vote. Does it mean that we have to get that desperate for people to actually take us seriously before actually something bad has to happen before people actually hear us?
Well, I was reading, and as far back as 1776, Abigail Adams, John Adams' future wife, she makes a plea to him and the Continental Congress to remember the ladies and be more generous and favorable to them than your ancestors. Do not put such unlimited power into the hands of the husbands. Remember, all men would be tyrants if they could. If particular care and attention is not paid to the ladies, we are determined to foment a rebellion and will not hold ourselves bound by any laws in which we have no voice or representation. So even back in 1776, they were trying to start this. You know, they could see that
Mm.
women were not being treated the same.
Yeah.
But I mean, that was from the future wife of a president. But, you know, look how long it's taken since then.
I
You know,
mean, yeah, we're still
it,
fighting.
you know, even back then they could tell we were not getting treated the same.
I mean, there are still women in countries like Korea, Japan, China, using those three just examples, that are still fighting so hard to be seen as individual and equal in their own right, who are
Yeah.
basically told most of the time what they can and can't do. And I think that who has the control over us in our life? I mean, let's look at our relationships and having a career. We fought so hard to get a career, like to be seen as equal in the line of work, you know, to be seen as we're equal. And yet
Yeah.
actually we're not, because we don't always get paid the same. We don't always get the same abilities and qualities that, you know, a guy can have. And I think why is it in 2024 are we still having to stand our ground and go, but actually, yes, we you know, we've got a lot. I mean, we did a lot of burning our bras in the 60s. Let's be honest, we burnt our bras and wanted equality. And in some ways we've got equality. In some ways we have a lot of equality. We absolutely do. And in other ways we don't. And I know that people will come on, and I know someone right now who's sitting outside watching, and I know he's going to come on, and he's smiling just looking at me as I'm saying this. He's going to come on, and he's drinking a cup of tea. When he does, he'll come on with probably a very good point. But the point is that we've tried to be mothers, have a career, juggle a relationship, keep the fire homes burning, look fabulous for our husband, run around like blue ass flies. We're not superwomen, and yet women are going around every day doing this.
Yeah.
And yet who's got control? Are they in control of their life, or are they just juggling it? Are they just barely keeping the balls in the air?
I think 99% are just trying to make it by.
Yeah.
You know, as far as equality and pay and things like that, I think a lot of companies and a lot of places, we do have equal pay. You do the same job as well, you know, as a
Yeah.
man does, you're going to get equal pay. There's so many jobs that women, and I'll probably get hate mail, but there's some things that women just can't do as well as men can do. It's just biology. You know, you would have to be one tough broad to work on an oil rig, or, you know, drilling for oil, or, you know, anything that's really tough manual labor.
Well, I was going to say the one thing that women can do is and men can't, is have babies. But hey, that's all changed now as well.
No, don't get me started.
That's all changed now as well. It's like, you know,
That is just another way of men taking over.
Because obviously that was biologically, it's, you know,
Biologically, men cannot have children. I'm sorry.
cannot have children. No, they cannot. And unfortunately, it's biological. I mean,
Yeah.
you can't, if you're not born with a womb and you're not born with ovaries and eggs, even women that are born without ovaries and eggs, they can't have children. It doesn't
But they
matter.
have the capacity to.
But they have the capacity, where guys are completely different.
And I'm sorry, but there is yet to be a uterine transfer into a male that is able to deliver a child, and it still would not be biologically theirs.
Yeah.
Sorry about it.
It's just
it's not going to happen. It's simple science.
And I know when it came out a couple of years ago, first man to have a baby, actually, he was actually born a woman,
Sure.
and still had his reproductive organs. Hence, he might have transferred into identifying as a guy, but he still physically, his body was female organs. So hence why he could have a child.
Right.
Do you feel though that, and this is a big point, that the government want control us in our relationships, with our health, with our how much of this is of them watching over us and go, you can't do this, you can't do that? Because I think they probably touch us in all our lives in all different ways. They've got their fingers on the pulse everywhere. And certainly it felt like in 2020 onward, they had a lot to say.
Because they had a lot of time in lockdown to think about stuff.
Yeah. And a lot of people complied. And I think when you comply, people know how far they can push the boundaries. And unfortunately, like every relationship in life, when somebody pushes the boundary on you and you allow them to push the boundaries on you, they just push it until...
Well, they see how far, they're like a toddler. They see how far they can push you before you stop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember years ago, like remembering the films, and I can't remember the name that Demi Moore was in. So perhaps someone would, she came on to Michael Douglas, I think, in a movie, and she was seen to be the sexual predator. Then you had Fatal Attraction. Then
Is it Striptease?
I can't remember its name. Then you had Single White Female. Then you had Fatal Attraction. Then you had Basic Instinct. There was all these movies about women being these predators, these dangerous women who are, if you're not careful, they're going to come and eat your bunny, or they're going to lose your job and come on to you, or they're going to, like we were this deranged. And there are a lot of women, don't get me wrong, there are women out there, sadly, who have...
But that's not all the woman's fault. No. The woman cannot seduce a man that does not give in.
No.
So, to me, that is a weak man. If he doesn't want to do it, he's not going to.
Yes.
So, but the way it's portrayed is we just come in and take it, and that's just not the case. It's
from a sexual point of view, we've always been seen, if you look back at history and you look at women full bosomed, hipped, half naked, we were slave girls to servant girls to wenches, serving wenches. Women have this lovely history of being these beautiful women that men can use and abuse and also enjoy, but who's got the power in that situation? And then as time's gone on, you have things like OnlyFans, where if you're a woman, you can, or a guy or whatever, you can set up an account, set and sell photographs of yourself or videos, etc., and take control of how much you show, what you're showing, and get paid for it. So you're taking control of that situation. So when we look at how far we were at the turn of the century, we were still fighting for votes and to be seen as equal, etc.
Right.
To where we are now, do you think, how much further have we've got to go, Val? Because I don't know about you, but I feel that certainly, I was talking about this on Robertson with Scotty, ageism, especially when it comes to women. I actually feel that women over a certain age, we're seen as past our best. There's a pressure to look good. Let's put the fillers in, the plastic in, get the operation done. Do you feel like do you feel that pressure on yourself?
It may just be me, but if I like the way I look, if I feel good about myself, I don't care what anybody else thinks.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not in Hollywood. I'm not, you know what I mean? I'm not under that pressure to look a certain way. You know, I have the freedom to look the way I want to, and if people don't like it, they don't have to see it. But if I was an actress or something like that, and these younger people coming in who had that look, and you're going to try to keep up with those, and you're going to want to be what people expect you to be. You know, Sharon Stone, when she first came out, she was young, fit, I mean, gorgeous. She's still gorgeous, but you can see she's gotten older.
Yeah.
And which makes, makes it harder for her to have all these parts that she used to get with no problem. So, there's lesser work maybe for someone who just doesn't go have work done. But I think it's gone to the point where it's ridiculous because everybody's starting to look exactly the same. It's like they all go to the same doctor and there's like one thing and everybody looks just like that one thing. It's like that doctor does one thing and everybody goes to him and everybody ends up looking just alike.
There is I feel it. I actually feel the pressure to look a certain way because, like, looking at with social media as, getting to a stage, it's like, do I need to put this in? Do I need to do this? And part of me is like wanting to, the other half is not sure whether I want to or not.
Yeah.
We talk about control. I have that control to say what I want to put in my body. So if I want to put filler and Botox in, I have the right if I want to do that, and it's my say. When it comes to my relationships, sometimes it feels like we're not in control. Sometimes it feels like someone else is riding that train and we're just riding along beside them.
Or they're pulling us along.
Yeah. And I wonder how many ladies, because we're obviously talking about the ladies, how many ladies right now are feeling they're on a train that's either about to smash in the wall or to not know their destination they're going to. I, like so many, am completely lost in some ways in which way I'm going. Like I feel like I'm at a train station, as I said, with many signs in front of me and I'm not sure which sign to take.
There's sometimes I feel like I'm tied up on the track in front of the train. But, I guess that's I think a lot of it has to do with who you're in a relationship with. There could be, there's people out there who have a history of stringing people along and who want control of every aspect.
Yeah.
Including the people they're in a relationship with. And if you push back at all, then they're not used to people pushing back. They may be a big boss somewhere and, used to that control and want it all the time. And there's a certain amount of control that each person has, I think, in a relationship. And if one person wants all that control, it's just not going to work. And, one person cannot have all the control.
And sometimes it's very hard for the other person to speak up or take that control because they are in that vulnerable position of, if I do this, I'm damned. If I do this, what about this? They live in that, not fear, but they live in that unknown territory of what, or known territory.
It's almost like the feeling that if I say anything, tell them anything's wrong, or I don't like something, they're going to leave.
Yeah.
I'm going
And
to lose them.
a lot
When
of
that's
people do.
when that's more than likely the best thing that could happen, because no relationship should make you feel like you're afraid to say something to the other person.
Yeah.
You know, if something's bothering you, you should be able to express it, and they should listen and not get, fly off mad and hang up on you, or leave and not talk, or ignore you for days. I mean, I've been in that situation, and I was afraid that if I said anything, that I wouldn't have that relationship. And looking back now, the best thing that ever happened was not having that relationship. But at the time, the mindset I was in was, I just need to keep my mouth shut, do what makes them happy so that they stay.
And
And that
sometimes
was
you are.
totally wrong.
Sometimes you're too frightened to say anything in case they go anyway. And I think that a relationship should be 50-50.
Yeah.
It should be
And sometimes it should be 80-20,
yeah.
or, on either side, because some days I might need to be lifted up. So they might have to take on 80% of the relationship.
Yes.
Other days I may have to pick up slack. So it's not always 50-50, but it should start out 50-50.
I think you're right when you come up with the comment of when people don't communicate, when they take control, when they ghost you, when they ignore you, when they have when they feel they have the upper hand, they're coming from a place of their own control for whatever reason. But
Yeah.
it's is that what we have to do as human beings? Do we have to feel like we have to control someone else or that situation? Can't we just face it as adults and actually not give that situation of control?
Some people can't. Some people have to have that control to feel like a man or like a woman. They feel like they cannot lose that control. That's not just in relationships, that's everything.
Mm.
In their head, they feel like if they're not in control, everything's going to go wrong. If they don't have control of everything marked out, that nothing's ever going to happen for them, that everything's going to go to shit. But those people are the ones that I think need to understand that you can't control everything. I mean, there's no possible way you can control everything in your life.
I have had a few relationships in my life where I have not had any control, and it's been, people say, well, why didn't you do something? Why didn't you leave? Why didn't you say? And I think a lot of the times I was probably scared to say something.
Sure.
I was not confident in myself or the relationship. I was frightened they would leave.
Mm-hmm.
And the relationships that I didn't care about so much, I had more control over. I seem to be able to put that wall up. Why is it that a vulnerability makes us lose that control?
I think it depends on the situation that you're in, because a lot of times if you're with the right person, if you lose that control, they're there to hold it together for you until you're back on your feet.
Yeah.
And then you have that control back of yourself, not necessarily of them, but there's certain people that they can do whatever they feel as far as being in control. They can do what they want to, but you can't be vulnerable around them because they will, and I'm speaking from experience. If you are vulnerable around them, they take advantage of that. So, more than once I've had this happen.
Yeah.
I've let my guard down and had people take advantage of it.
I think that
And
people do like to be, they prefer to be the controller than the vulnerable one, because if they're in control, it makes them feel safe. It makes them feel, I'm in control of this. It's going at my speed. I'm driving the train. And sometimes being vulnerable is actually strong, and actually being vulnerable is actually showing how strong you are by being vulnerable. In our relationships, is there a power struggle, which we know there is at times, where control is fought for by, it can feel like a battle going on. He said, she said, he did, you don't, I don't. And everywhere in life, when we looked at this subject, every day in somehow way, we are either trying to hold on and stay in control. And sometimes it's with our own mental health. We are trying to stay in control of our mental health because our mental health is taking us down a road which is very difficult sometimes to come back from. And excuse me, I think that we have to try and rise above, but sometimes getting control of your mental health is one of the hardest things to do, because you can have therapy, you can take tablets, you can talk to as many people as you want, but when it's dark and it's just you in your brain or you're in your mental health, sometimes trying to get that control is not easy.
It's really not. And I think that's when you need someone who you can lean on, who is not going to take advantage of that vulnerability. And it's hard to find.
Yeah.
It's hard to find people that, are in a relationship that will stand up when you need a hand. They will hold you up when you need it,
Yeah.
and let you do the same for them. I think it's very hard to find a relationship where you have both sides that way. It's normally one constantly leaning on the other, this or a power struggle. It's not very rare that you find someone that can lift you up out of those situations.
And actually having someone who stays around.
Yeah.
Because mental health is not always easy to deal with. Sometimes we're all struggling with our own mental health, and some days the darkness comes in quicker than others.
Sure.
And some days you're able to control that veil. You can keep it behind the you put on the good face, and you're in control enough of it. And sometimes you're not in control of your own health, because your health takes, I think the body listens to you, and I think the body responds, and sometimes we need to listen to our bodies, and we need to listen to our mental health and go, actually, you need to be in control for a while. I need to stop fighting against you, stop fighting, and just accept and just allow. And I know this is a struggle that I've had in the last couple of months, is trying to control my mental health, because it's up and down. And some days are really, really good. Other days are not so. And
but I think your body has a way of telling you, just stop.
Yeah.
Just stop trying to, control every aspect of yourself. Because like you said, your body's going to tell you what it needs.
It does. And I think it stops. It also comes to a stop where it goes, enough. And I think that sometimes we have to give up. We can't keep burning our bodies out and going for burnout, because at the end of the day, our body will then take control. And if you have no health, you have anything. So looking, when I put the promo up, as in control over our relationship, control over our health, control about what we put into our bodies, what we take out of our bodies, control over our family. Are we free? Are we free to do anything?
No.
No.
And I don't think we ever will be. And that's just life. People have never really been free to just go and do whatever they wanted to.
No.
You know, it's just like a killer, a murderer. They're not free to just go and do what they like to do what they want to do. They'd be killing people.
I mean, we certainly learned that if you don't, in certain ways in 2020 onwards, if we didn't do what was advised and what was told, we couldn't get on a plane, couldn't get on a train, couldn't go to work. In France, using France as an example, you couldn't even walk in a park in certain areas unless you had a mask on, or you were, you know, proved what you had and what you didn't
Right.
have. And is that what it's come to, that we can't even go into a park and breathe in the fresh air, which is good for us? It's really good for us. And that's what it came to. And I think that I have friends that I look at completely different these days. I love them all, but I look at them differently because I saw how we all treated each other so differently, how we all viled between each other, like, you haven't done this, you should do this, what about this? And I have the same feeling, which some people may not agree with and some people may. I believe in the right. A woman has the right to choose what she puts in her body and what she takes out. I believe the man has a right to put what in his body and take what's out, because the only control we have left in the world truly is over our body, over ourselves. Even our mind can betray us sometimes. Even our mind can take us on a different route that we don't want to go down to. But we do have a say over what we do to our body, what we put in it, what we take out of it, whether that be a vaccination, whether that will be a termination, whether that will be alcohol, whether it be drugs, whether it be anything. We have that say.
See, I have a different view on the termination. You know that.
I do.
So, I mean,
And
you know, I may get slack for it. I don't care. It's just the way I feel. I think there's circumstances. I don't think any of us have the right to murder another human. And you know, in my eyes, it is another human. It's not me. It's not my body. Mm-hmm. It's housed in my body for a few months, but it's not my body. If it was causing my body harm, or if it was a threat to my life, that's a different circumstance. Just like I don't have the right to go out and shoot somebody and kill them for no reason. If I was in my home, or if someone, even if I was out and someone attacked me or one of mine, you damn right, I have every right. But that's self-defense. It's not no reason. You know what I mean? So, you know, I feel like there's certain circumstances to everything.
And everybody has, as I said, that's the thing, isn't it? Over the choice over your body.
Yeah, everybody has, you know, has different circumstances.
Yeah.
Even my children, if something was harming them, or puts their life at risk, as bad as it would hurt me, you know, then I would agree with that. But if it's not harming them in any way, and it's only because it's unwanted,
Mhm.
I don't. It's just not in my brain.
And I think that's, as I said, you have two sides of that argument. And neither side is wrong and neither side is right, because it's all individual, and it's
and nothing as far as that goes is black and white.
Absolutely. And I think that our bodies, when we started with the promo right from the start, it's like, it's my life, it's my choice. But when someone's in a relationship and their friends hate them, they hate your partner, your parents hate your partner, and they go, why are you dating this person? Like, why are you dating them? And you go, it's my life, my choice. I'll see who I want to see and I'll do what I want to do. And they're going, why are you doing this? Why?
Yeah.
And because we're standing our ground going, this is what we want. And it's the same as our bodies. We should be given the right about our say. So do we have the right? Do we have the control and the right to take our life when by assisted dying, like with Canada? And I just want to bring up some, because that was the point which I'm trying to bring up here. Where is it? Here we are. They want to legalize medically assisted dying. They almost brought it in a decade ago, and it's very divisive, because obviously, you used to have to see a counselor and a doctor and go through lots of, ups and downs before you were allowed to even go that far.
Right.
In 2019, a Quebec judge ruled that restricting access to those who had a reasonable foreseeable death was unconstitutional, forcing lawmakers to amend and expand the existing laws. I'm a little nervous when it comes to assisted dying and having someone else having a say in that, because it's a slippery slope what road you can go down. Do I believe that we have the right to end our life if we want to? Yes, I believe we should have that right. Like, if an animal is really sick, we take them to the vet, and if the vet says, I'm so sorry, there's nothing more we can do, you do what you can. But I found, I was very worried when I was looking at this report, was that if you had anorexia, if you had mental health issues, if you had poverty, if you were in a poverty that was not going to get any better, you couldn't see a way out, your life was just one long dark road, it could be suggested, that if it could happen, you could be granted it. 13,102 people have already died using assisted deaths in Canada. 13,500 people. That doesn't sound a lot.
Yeah, it does.
That's just recently. 96.5% had terminal illnesses or faced imminent death. Only 463 people suffering from a chronic condition was accessed, help for it. 463. I think that if you have say you've got back pain or a chronic condition, that's not going to go. It's not going to make life any easier for you. You're in constant pain all the time. And somebody says, well, you know what? Instead of taking all the drugs, if it's not going to get any better and there's no other way, here we go. We can just pop you into the room next door and jab you with something and it's all over.
Right.
That scares the shit out of me, because before it was with a doctor and a counselor and you had to go through a lot of, swings and roundabouts. You can't just go on a plane and fly out to Sweden and Denmark and Belgium without going through the same things. But Canada's coming up with some very different different ways of looking at it, which makes me a little scared. How do you feel about this whole taking control of and taking the right to end your life?
It all goes back to, I don't feel like anyone has the right to take a life. I mean, unless it's self-defense or war, something like that. Do you remember Dr. Jack Kevorkian?
Yes.
He was an American pathologist and euthanasia proponent. He publicly championed a terminal patient's right to die by physician-assisted suicide. Embodied in his quote, "Dying is not a crime." Kevorkian said that he assisted at least 130 patients. Okay, a Michigan jury found Dr. Jack Kevorkian guilty of second-degree murder.
And
So,
also, that happened in the UK. Dr. Shipman actually decided that these elderly people were no use to society anymore, so he gave them a lethal injection and killed them. And nobody knew it was their doctor going, well, actually, it's okay. We don't need them anymore. Let's just like pop them off. And by the way, before you do it, sign your will over to me.
yeah, I mean, where do we draw the line between murderer and, help?
Yes.
There's a fine line. Just because I go in, do you know what would happen if I went into the ER and said, "Can someone help me commit suicide?" I'd be put in a mental place.
You would, yeah.
And you know what? I would need to be put in a mental place because that's what they need. They need help. Now, the ones that are terminally ill, I feel like we're all put on this earth for a reason. And if you're still on this earth, you haven't achieved that yet. There may be something that's supposed to happen the day God takes you that is meant to change someone else forever.
Yes.
And I don't, I don't think that even my dad, as bad as he got, I don't think I could have approved of it.
Well, MAID is the name for medically assisted dying, and critics of a potential British assisted dying law have warned about the difficulties in defining who is eligible, because you have people with dementia, you have people with all kinds of, how do you know they're in the right mind to make the decision to actually say, yes, I am? Do you have to get to a point where you're like, well, I still think I'm in my right mind before I make that decision? So I think if you have Alzheimer's, dementia, and certainly conditions like that, it's a very sticky wicket, very much so. And I think with I'm reading here with and obviously looking at the Canadian one, and Kay was going to come on tonight, and she may come back and chat about this, but they were saying that a Canadian Forces veteran was claimed they were offered medically assisted dying in response to a request for a wheelchair lift or ramp at our house. And while an investigation found no record that it had been inappropriate suggested, the case manager was suspended and the incident was referred to the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. Another case, a family said that they died by euthanasia with hearing loss as the sole reason for doing so, and the family reported it to police and health authorities, but neither saw cause to investigate further. The RCMP told the family that Nicholas, Alan Nichols, met the criteria for assisted death. So you're telling me, let me get this right, that if you need a ramp or help, if you can't hear properly, if you've got like you're financially in a bad way that you can't afford things and it's not looking any like you're going to win the lottery anytime soon, and you're dependent on the system and you don't get benefits, you don't get any help or anything like that, well, we can't see your life improving. You've always got this button. Is that what's going to happen to us as we get older and as the world's change? There has to be you cannot even get certain vitamins now in Canada unless you get a prescription for them. Vitamins,
it all seems like a calling to me. It seems like everywhere they're finding ways of thinning the herd. I mean, and I could be completely wrong, but that's just, to me, it's just, it seems like government, thinning the herd.
It's certainly one way to move crowd control, that's for sure, isn't it? I mean, they're now talking about the next problem is chronic mental illness. How they're going to have to rework their laws because they face pressure to include mental illness as a reason for accessing assisted death. And you see the movies. There's lots of movies out there where it shows that in years to come, we can go somewhere, we can arrange to have our life taken. And there's a guy out there in Canada called Stan Kuchar, and he says a competent person with a mental disorder who is suffering terribly and persistently should be able to decide how they would choose to proceed with their life. To deny them this right while permitting it for people whose illness is not a mental disorder is not just stigmatizing, it's exclusionary. That makes me incredibly nervous. We all know people who do have mental health, schizophrenia, depression, panic attacks, all kinds of bipolar. I'm trying to remember the other one. Body dysmorphia. I can't remember the name of it. Forgive me. But literally, sometimes what these people need is help and support to get through it before they go down that. Listen, you can just go in that room and it'll all be over.
But it seems like they don't want people to actually get the help to help their mental illness.
Yeah.
It's more along the lines of, okay, well, let's just get rid of them and we won't have to worry about it. But if someone is in the mindset of killing themselves, doesn't that mean that they need mental help?
Yeah.
I mean, just like if I went and told somebody, I feel like I'm going to commit, unaliving me.
Take your own life. I mean, the thing is, that is our right.
Then, people automatically say, you need to go to a therapist, you need to go to a psychiatrist, you need to get better. And I've known people who have been on the verge and, now they look back at it and they're like, I was so down and depressed. And after I went to therapy, after I did get help, my life turned around. And so
that's a good point.
It's crazy.
That's a good point, because we've all been there where we said, I don't want to be here anymore. I don't want this anymore. I just want to go to sleep and not wake up. I want to die. I just don't want to be here anymore. I just want it all over. We have all said that in one way or the other in our lifetime. Did we mean it? Yes, maybe at the time we did. Did we carry it? And some of us did do that and some of us didn't do it. And I think we have to be sensitive when we looked about who's got the control over our lives. I do believe that we have that right to be on this planet or not to be on this planet. It is our right and our choice. I'm not saying I agree with it. I'm not saying I don't agree with it, but I'm saying we have that right. I have lost many people, sadly, who have had taken that decision. And the for the people that are left behind, it's incredibly painful. And I wonder if it's a very, and I'm trying to be very sensitive about this, but is it a way of providing an easy way out by curing suffering, by ending life? And I think that if you are suffering and you are going through a terrible long-term illness that isn't going to get any better, if you have a cancer, a tumor, or anything like that, you have to be sensitive and say, if this person's in terrible pain, no matter how many drugs you're taking, it's, you know, an quality of life. Yes, I can understand why that argument comes into and do that. But for mental health, for anorexia, for like poverty, for, you know, I think you've got to be, instead of saying like, you know, let's just end their suffering. Well, how can we help you with it? Why is there not more help for people? Why is there not more help?
Why not instead of funding taking someone's life and everything that goes into that, put all that into help for these people that need it. I mean, you know, I can kind of see someone who is, you know, terminal and severe pain and all this. I can see where their mind would go to that. My faith wouldn't let me do that. But, you know, I could understand if someone was just like, I can't take this anymore. But like I said, my faith would stop me from doing that.
And as women, if you're a mum, you know, I'm using us women as a mum, as a wife, etc., etc. Life is already filled with a lot of control already. You know, I've got to do this, I've got to do that. Our bodies, as I say, are the last thing that we have control. We really have control over. I don't want to take that tablet. I don't want to have that test. I don't want to put this in me. And yet there was a time when it was forced on us and pushed on us and made us to feel like terrible people if we didn't. When I take us to the Afterglow, I'm going to bring in the two lads, the Mr. Wicked 1 and Wicked 2. I'm going to have to call him Wicked 2 because he's always here supporting us. So I'm going to have to put a W after his name now. But I think this is a subject where we're looking at control, not just in our relationships and our general life, but who has got control over us. It certainly doesn't feel like it is us.
I've definitely felt in my life, in relationships and everywhere else, that I had lost all control. But thankfully, you know, I got a lot of that back once I realized it wasn't working.
Do you feel that you're in control now?
Maybe not 100%, but way more than I used to be.
Any day now, Val. Any day, Val. Stay with us, guys. I'm going to go to Afterglow. I'm going to bring Michael on. I'm going to bring on Jason on, and anyone else who wants to come and join us and talk about this subject. I am going to put the link down here. I know Jason is probably like,
all right, I got
to.
Do I need to get on my boxing gloves, Jason?
I know Jason's really frothing at his mouth, like, because he's smiling away there, and he looks slightly different from the last time I saw him as well.
I wondered if I was going to have to, you know.
Let's just go to this and we'll bring them on. And there he is. Hello.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing all right. I'm doing all
What
right.
happened to the
What the
beard?
hell? Jesus Christ. Had a shaving mishap, did we? Okay, I've been there.
No. I there's an event coming up here in a couple of weeks, and I figured I might as well just get it over and done with, where it look more professional to be clean shaven than fully bearded, and
You look so different, Jason.
I've just got to get him a man's haircut.
a man's haircut.
Yeah, that's not in reg. Yeah, that's not in reg, sir.
Yeah, you know what? I'll tell you what reg it's within. DD 214. That's the reg that it's in.
That's it. That's not in reg.
So boys, Michael, welcome to
Hello.
Afterglow. How you guys have been in the back listening to this, and as you say, we always like to bring you guys on to give your, and we only covered just a fraction of some of the things that I mentioned in the promo, because we were going to talk a lot about the Canadian thing with Kay, and she may come on and finish that, but you know, that's where it began from. But Michael, what's your sort of take from what we were talking about?
This worries me.
Oh Lord, no.
Before we get
Some
Jason,
no. Jason's like myself. We know we do a lot of history, and I always said if you forget history, you're damn doomed to repeat it. You really are. Sully Green come out in the early '80s, and they had the room when you was tired of living or whatever. That they put you in there with a whole big pretty scene and give you 3 tablets, and next thing you know, your worries are gone. Futurama actually has a booth that looks a lot like the TARDIS, or a phone booth. You go in, you put a quarter in, and the running joke was Bender was always going to the booth, taking his quarter out. So, it's been put out there. I always said that, they put it out in TV and movies and media to get you. Oh, yeah. I just
don't get distracted. Carry on, Michael.
Okay.
Squirrel.
Squirrel. But, they put it out there same way with like aliens or anything like that. They show it to you in movies first. Then they kind of ease it right into your life. And
they desensitize you.
That's it. And I've always said, that they just reinvented slavery. Now you're enslaved to money, mortgage, what kind of car you drive. Like that, it's like 3 classes of people. You have your ultra rich, your working poor, then you have the bottom of the barrel type stuff. And the other thing, they did compliance by fear. Oh, if you don't get this or take that, then like you said, it's peer pressure. That they turn families against family, they turn friends against friends. Partners against partners. And even in the Army, me and Jason talked about this the other day. They said, hey, if you don't take this shot, it's the end of your career. You got to leave. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. And now that the numbers are down, they're coming back and saying, oh, we didn't really mean it. We'd love to have you back. And our numbers in the armed forces right now are like scary, scary low. Because these people are like, look, you've already put all these other shots in me. I have a religious exemption. I don't want
that
it.
shows you how much they trust the people that are trying to make them take it.
No, and I always said there's nobody that screws like the government. If you want the best one in your life, just deal with the government. Jason can confess to that. You know what I'm saying? If you ever want it,
just want you to know, in case you were wondering, I like the government.
You like the government? Yeah, just so
his ass.
No, I expletive like the government.
Michael, do you think that you have the only control we have left in our life is the control over our body?
I'd like to think so, but and it goes back to my body, my choice. But when I said that about getting a shot, everybody's like, "Oh no, that's not the same." If you have the right to put something in or take something out, I should also have the right to say I want this or I don't want this. If I want to smoke, I'm a smoker. I get bollocks for it. You know what I'm saying? But if I'm willing to take the bollocking, it's my choice to put it in my body. But I understand. Don't do it around the dogs. You know what I'm saying? They're a helpless victim, or the cat. I get that. I'm a big boy. Meow. Yeah. And
but did you get to a point in your life where you have said that I don't want to be here. It'd be easier if I just took that way out.
Oh yeah.
And if it was on offer, would you have considered it?
Like I said, I've talked to you about that. You know, offline. You know, there was one time where if my mom hadn't have stepped in, I wouldn't be here. And I'll tell you what, when they put you in that room for that, they have key cards and you don't get one. You know, they say, you know, it's always on like F4 or something, or 4B or whatever, 4F. No, 4F, that's what it was. And but no, it is. But like I said, but when, like, and you use a term that, you know, that I learned in school, slippery slope, when I wrote a paper. You know, if you give them this much room, how much more room are they willing to take?
Yeah.
You know, and I have the fight for women to be independent. And I say, you know, if women want to burn their bras, I got a lighter. Let's burn them things, honey. You know what I'm saying? If you
Y'all
wanna go
don't
talk
like us to
about
wear
it,
them anyway. I ain't
that's
start.
it just gets in the
There
way.
it is.
But anyway, there it is. Yeah, there it is. Hey, you know, and
I've learned a
but-
little bit in my 50 years.
is it? But you know what I'm saying? It is the last in the last sovereign thing, and it's even in our Constitution. You should be able to remain secure in your person, which is your person, and effects, which means anything that you carry on your person. In Canada, don't have the same Constitution as we do, and I know in the UK that the laws are totally different, and I don't even know if they run under a Constitution in the UK or not. I'm trying to learn the ins and out with the whole passport and visa and all that stuff, because I know the laws are totally different.
Are you guys still operating off the Magna Carta, Wendy? Is that what?
We still have the Magna Carta, and believe it or not, we bring that out from time to time and go, look at this, 100 and you know, whatever. You can still not put your cow here. We do have the Magna Carta.
Yeah.
We don't have assisted dying in the UK. We don't. We have something along the lines, but we don't. And I think it would be hard pressed to bring it in for a while. Having said that, they can always get rid of us of other ways and methods, which I'm sure they do all the
Yeah.
time.
That's what I
That's
was
it, yeah.
just thinking. I wonder how many doctors actually do help people. We just don't know about it.
I'm sure.
You
they
know,
do.
have you ever seen anybody in hospice? And I just went through that with my dad. The medication doses that they give, if you was healthy, would take you out.
Yeah, I
Like I
went
said,
through
you
the
know,
same thing.
And like I said, you know, they leave here with a smile on their face because they're higher in hell, and that's what it is. And it's like, you know, and I've
But
thought,
I
and I'm
mean,
not
I can understand, you know, there's nothing that can be done, therefore make them comfortable. I'm totally on board with that.
Yeah,
I just can't wrap my brain around helping someone,
no,
you know.
What's that?
And
KB
it
said, "Oh, can you pop up his comment? I'm having trouble reading it here."
says ding ding.
Yeah, he says that's bullshit. Bullshit. It's still murder, taken alive. Like is it wrong? Stop playing God.
Yeah.
You know, men have been wanting to play God for a long time. That's how come they deal with stem cells. That's how come they deal with the DNA stuff. That's how come they, they, and now even with the Hadron Collider, they're actually looking for what they have termed the God particle, because they want to know how it works. Same way with bioengineering and all that, and it goes back to say, playing, I think it's man's natural curiosity to want to play God.
But why
That's
can
how
they
come-
not turn all that into helping people instead of, oh, well, we can take a bunch of people out this way?
Well,
because it don't pay the bills.
I was gonna say, if you wanna look at something in terms of why don't they do something, is it about control or whatever? I would argue, from a practical sense, it is far less about control and far more about the dollars and cents.
Oh yeah, I totally agree.
If you wanna look at, comparing the cost between keeping someone alive long term, whether it's they have, terminal ailments or they have massive mental health problems and things like that, you're going to spend, and the government will spend a lot more money doing that than they will being like, okay, your body, your choice. You asked for it. Here you go.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, I mean,
that's a cold, hard thing. But like when you start looking at some of the kind of more conspiracy theory-esque things out there, like the government is incredibly inefficient when it wants to be incredibly inefficient, but it's also incredibly efficient when it wants to be incredibly efficient.
well, yeah, I mean, I understand that they're getting more money the longer I'm on medicine, you know.
Right. And that's not even necessarily a government thing. That
No,
insurance,
no,
health
that's
providers,
big
all of
pharma.
that.
But what
I-
I'm saying is, you know, I know that they've had cures for things for years. It's just not as profitable.
Right.
But
Yeah.
what I'm saying is, you know, instead of putting all your smarts into, okay, let's make up this bill or whatever it is to where we'll just help people, you know, off themselves.
And I also think you've got to look at the conditions that they're using, like anorexia.
Yeah,
I know-
exactly.
I mean, that
Exactly.
stuff's ridiculous. You know, and in terms of mental health, there's also some sort of delineation that needs to be made between someone who is eventually going to be, you know, completely mentally, you know, not there and in unable to make decisions for themselves. You know, there's lines to be drawn, obviously, with stuff, but do
you agree, Jason, that the one thing that you have that we probably have left control of in our lives is our body?
I would actually say I would actually argue that we have a lot more control than just that.
What would you say are other areas?
I would say everywhere. And here's why I say this. Everything you do in life, from getting up out of bed and putting on whatever shoes you're going to put on before you go to work, and clothes before anybody gets any ideas, you know, you're making a choice all the way from there to whether I'm going to die, whether I'm going to pay this bill, whether I'm going to buy this thing, whether I'm going to adhere to a mandate or not, whether I am going to respect boundaries or not. You have that choice. Now, with every choice, and it even where things that the government does not touch, every choice has a consequence.
Yes, it does.
It's like physics. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Everything that you do is going to have some sort of effect somewhere. So really, what people probably need to start doing is being more conscientious about how they make decisions, more deliberate in how they make decisions. And then, you know, in the case of things where you have mandates, etc., right? You have a choice to follow that mandate or not. The question is, do you have the backbone or not? Or are you in a position to be able to exercise that backbone to follow it or not, or to not follow it? For me, it kind of became an obvious choice when it's like, hey, look, everybody, federal employee has to get it. Got it. Why? Because it is far more important for me to be able to be there fiscally if my children ever need anything or the people around me need something than it is for me to prove a point. You know,
It's not always about it wasn't about proving a point, though.
It's right. It's not about proving a point, but you know, there ends up. I'm just using that as a particular.
Yeah, but I mean,
example.
you know, certain things I agree.
Right.
I mean, certain things,
Jason
it's,
said that
you
wasn't
know,
a strong enough hill for him to die on. If he's going to
Right.
pick a battle,
Is this a hill worth me dying on? Because I know that if I get out, if I was forced out, I'm going to have to find work in the private sector. I'm going to have to do something. How long is that going to take? How long, are my funds going to last within, my own bank account, within the assets that I can unload to create more liquidity? All of those things. Is this the hill that I want to die on? And when I weighed it up and I looked at the fact that I was a government pincushion for 11 years, 3 months, and 2 days, hell with it. It's way more big. It is not the hill that I want to die on, because the other things are far more important. And you know what? I maintained my job. I wasn't subjected to being forced out because I didn't get something and things like that. So everybody has to weigh their own situation and make their own choice,
mhm.
and then live with the consequences. And that's why I say we have far more choice than we probably give ourselves credit for having. It's just that we don't all look at it the same way. We aren't always aware of that.
Michael, sorry, Jason, do you feel like we have control over our mental health? And do you feel that that's something we have to learn to control, have to get that control every day? I mean, I think all of us here at one point in our lives have had depression, panic attacks, etc., dark thoughts, whatever. What would you say? Do you feel like getting control of your mental health has been an ongoing battle?
Oh yeah, I used to fear my demons. Now I play with them. I'm just, I just embrace it. I figured that's part of me now, and if they want to play, let's play. But it took me a long time to get into that mentality of being that, and it's something that comes with age, And I wrote something down here a while ago when it's talking about the helping people unalive themselves. Something that was said to me a long time ago. It says permanent solutions for temporary problems. And that has stuck with me for a long time. And a lot of people cannot get over temporary problems, so they look for a permanent solution. Mm-hmm. And my aunt, she is country. She's up there in Tazewell. Valerie knows where that is. And she always told me, the sun don't shine in the same dog's ass every day. So every day there going to be ups and downs and all arounds. It's like a sea captain, and you're the head, you're the captain of your own ship. Choices you make. Do I go to the breakwater, or do I go out to open water? Sometimes you might bump your ass on the rocks, and some days you might have clear sailing. It's just, got to learn to take the good with the bad. But anymore, we are coming up in a society where kids grew up with no consequences, got participation trophies. They had no adversity to overcome. So when little things come hitting at them, they don't get enough likes on their video on TikTok or Instagram. They don't get enough hearts, likes, and stars. Their world comes to an end. And it goes back, I think Jason said it before. It's all about your perspective. If you've never had nothing bad happen in your life, and you stump your toe, and that's the worst thing that's ever happened to you in your life, that's catastrophic. But if you've had to get through it you day in and day out for your whole life, the little things don't bother you no more. Mm-hmm. It's like, well, okay, let's roll with it. That's just. And if you've ever been in the Army like me and Jason has, you see bad shit every day, and it's just like, well, hell, today's going to suck just how bad.
That's why, here in the last 10 years, training resiliency has been such a huge thing. I don't. You may have gotten out before. When did you get out, Mike?
2015.
20. Okay, so we got out at the same time. So you were exposed to it on some level.
30th, yeah.
They had the resiliency training course, and they had master resilience trainers, and we all had to attend these classes. And I went to the master resilience trainer course, and became a MRT, and I had to teach the classes on resilience. And I put my own experiences in there, but that's the thing is it's a resiliency is a muscle, and it has to be worked. If you don't work it and you don't develop it, it will fail you every time.
Yeah.
And it's a mindset. So one of the things that we were always taught, and Mike, you'll probably remember this, was, hunt the good stuff, right? Was one of the big things we'd always push. Hunt the good stuff.
Yeah.
And you start it, and that's looking for the positives in life, right? And you start into the process of looking at it, okay, look, I just need to get you to give me 3 positive things a day.
Yeah.
Find me 3 positive things in a day. And the more you do that, right, it becomes repetitive. The more you kind of make that your mantra at the beginning of the day, at the end of the day, give me, 3 good things. All right. I woke up and I made it to work on time. I walked out of the house wearing matching socks. Whatever it is, right?
Even small.
It becomes easier. Yeah, even if it's tiny, it becomes easier and easier and easier to, 1, see those things, and then 2, see the bigger things and have that impact your life. And it's a process. And if you don't know how to exercise that, it's a weak muscle. You have to do that. And then eventually it gets to the point where you do it subconsciously. You don't even think about it, until something really bad's going on.
AARs.
Yeah.
And that's what I tell my sons now that we're working on the farm. Having a little AARs with them after we get done or before we go,
After action review for those who don't.
Yeah. Give me 3 good things that we did correctly.
Yeah.
And
3
you
ups,
don't
3
even say,
down.
well, don't tell me 3 things. Yeah, that's on. But you don't even say it like, hey, what did we screw up on? What can we improve? Which puts a positive spin on it. And,
I think that's a very good
what
point.
could we have done better?
Yeah.
And like I said, and it goes back to Air Corps training. You could probably throw a bus at me or Jason. We'd be like, well, hell, fuck me, it could have been a bigger bus,
I like your positive spin on that, Jason. It's but sometimes it's very hard.
It is. It's not easy at all. And look, when I was training master resilience, when I was training resilience courses, I frequently would go back to my own personal experiences. And I've been there where I have contemplated suicide. I mean, like literally sitting there on the bed, gun in hand, that kind of thing. All right.
No, it's okay.
You can't say the S word.
Yes, you can.
What's the S word? Oh, yeah. No.
When you wanted to take your own life.
Yeah,
right.
Like I said, I've been there. Jason's been there.
Right. But it's a dark spot. It's a dark spot, and we all go through. Maybe not that dark, but we all do go through dark times, and it's about being able to stand up on your own 2 feet, because it's not in the getting knocked down that defines you. It's how you get back up.
No, and literally nobody else can do that. You have to pull yourself back up.
Exactly, and that's so going back to one of the main topics there. When it comes to the assisted death, with the mental health issues, look, I can't begin to tell you what it is like to live inside the head of people who have some of the most extreme variations of whatever their mental illness is. Right. Like sometimes there is a level of intensity that you can't overcome with meds. Takes a little bit of the edge off, but then what's your quality of life? So you have to figure out what that line, that demarcation line is. And that's a tough one. But also at the same time, with looking at things like dementia and Alzheimer's and stuff like that too, I get a little gray on that one. I'll be honest, because how many people out there have had to watch their significant other, my ex, I remember her, coming home. She was going to see her grandfather at the care facility. And while they're doing things and prepping the room, cleaning and whatnot, and she's visiting with him, he's half lucid, barely, any of the time you go see him. And when he does have moments of lucidity, he's sitting there crying, asking questions. Why does God keep me away from my wife? Like, that's horrible. So, like, what do you do with that? Right? Like, where do you even begin?
But see,
to go with
that would not be a situation where he would be making his own decision. It would be someone else making that decision for him.
Right.
And that's the concern, isn't it? Like, when do we hand over
Yeah.
control of our life? Because with all due respect, we have handed over a lot of our lives. We have been compliant in lots of ways. And we have, and in the UK, for instance, I'm using this as an example of the laws that are changing. And the right to protest law has changed as well a lot in the UK. Also, the UK government can now look in your bank account of major 15 banks in the UK.
They would get a good laugh if they looked at me.
Oh my God. Wendy, get out of there. Get out of there. Get out of there.
You might have to adopt me.
Good Lord.
If you receive any kind of help from the government, benefit, whatever, they have the right. You are allowed up to £16,000. But if they have the right to go and look in your bank at any time, and it's like that is, and then they can also say, what did you spend your money on? What did you do this for? What did you buy this for?
Yeah.
That is
are there stipulations behind that? Are there guidelines behind that? Like, if you're on welfare, we're going to make sure that you're not out there spending your welfare on like cigarettes and liquor when you have children to take care of at home. Well,
that you're not bringing in extra money just to keep the wolves from the door, because if anyone knows you lived on benefits, there's not a lot of money coming in and going out.
But I will tell you this much though, and this is stuff that I have seen personally, right? Working in grocery stores and things like that. I have personally seen people come through the line getting all kinds of crazy stuff, and then they whip out the food stamps.
Oh, I've seen that too.
And you're like, seriously? 4 cartons of cigarettes and a bottle of Johnny Walker, and now you're whipping out the food stamps too? Like, where are your priorities? So, like, on a certain level, on a certain level, I'll be honest. There's a part of me that's like, look, if you're living off of government subsidy and everybody else's tax dollars, dude, I want to be in your wallet, and I want to tell you, what are you doing? Because that's my money. What always
got me was they would buy all this food with food stamps and then buy like $150 worth of lottery tickets.
Right, that too. I've seen that as well.
And
that's a good point. You also have to think that their whole goal is to get as many people as they want, and they say, for instance, say you can't afford to live on what you've got, so you sell clothes on eBay or you sell clothes on Vinted, and you're bringing in a regular income. It's like, what's this, what's that, what are you spending on? We are losing our rights, whether they are little by little, they are being chipped away from us, and unless the rest of us turn around and say, no, you can't do this.
I think they're doing it little by little so we don't notice.
Well, that's what they do. They slip laws in very, very sneakily, like the protest one in the UK that came through incredibly. Most people don't realise that I think it was between May time last year, I think like 100 countries went out and signed an agreement with the World Health Organization that if there's another pandemic or anything like that, the World Health Organization has the power to give us all what they think we need.
Yeah, I heard about that actually.
Sail over, and the UK was one of the countries that signed. So was the United States. So was Canada.
I don't know if it's actually been ratified by the UN. But then again, at the same time, or the World Health Organization or whatever. But then again, at the same time, it's like, are you guys really an actual governing body? I'm going to sit over here with my blackjack and hookers and bender and do my own thing.
I guess in Canada,
giving yourself away.
Don't be a trucker. Don't protest don't protest peacefully. And you know,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, because I mean, I think that the one
Hey,
thing we've
the
seen,
shelves are empty in New York right now. That they pissed the truckers off in New York, and the shelves are getting empty. So, but even the United States came in after January 6th, which is another tough, touchy subject. And they started putting in keywords to look to the banks. Everybody that shopped at Bass Pro Shop, Cabela's, that GUN word, or searched ammo, and then they went into a back loophole. And, so not only does it happen there, and we have a constitution, like I said, I think me and Jason looked at it, but it's our Fourth Amendment. It says we have the right to be secure in our papers, persons, and effects, or something another. And they're going and looking in your bank. Yeah. They're looking in your bank records right now to see if you are what they consider an unfriendly American. Because right now, we're split 50-50.
Yeah.
And
there's also
I think it's going to take
a lot of controls and checks and balances on that, though.
I think it's going to take some unruly Americans to get it back. But
there's
some
checks and balances that a lot of people don't realize with a lot of like the data gathering stuff. And this is not me saying I agree with it, because I don't. But how we look at it and how people react and respond to things, if you have a whole picture versus the tagline that you got from, whatever your crazy uncle's third cousin, 12th time removed, posted up on their Facebook page. Right. Is that with like all of the data, like let's talk about data collection, listening conversations, etc., those kinds of things, right? All that stuff gets recorded and it just goes into a database. It just goes into a database. Before anybody can access that information, a warrant has to be issued. So there's a lot of stuff that's just
they have been
sitting in a drawer. Huh?
But there was one case where they actually give it up without a warrant, and I forget what cell phone carrier it was, but a cell phone carrier is like, oh, but we do it all the time, and there's a lot of blowback. But I'm sitting here.
Yeah, I'm talking about the actual government collection stuff versus what corporations are doing.
But when you download any app on your phone, you give them the right to collect your data.
Right. There's terms of service.
But
Who reads terms of service?
The truth is,
but I want to know who the hell is walking around and running around naked. That's where I want to know where that church is. Hell, they might get my attendance if I can figure out where that is. I've been chewing on that for like 15 minutes when I read that. I'm like, where's this church?
Michael, don't be nasty.
I'm
not being nasty. I'm just curious. It's for religious purposes only.
We can only cover so much of it in a short time, because, as I said, Kay was going to come on, and she, believe it or not, has a lot to say about her country. And the one thing we wanted to do with Wicked Women was to have women from different countries to tell us what's going on. And Canada's going through a very, very tough time right now. And I think that when you talk to her and you listen to her, like I sent the messages to Val, so she heard them. And you hear it, you think, oh my God, one of the most popular countries in the world, one of the most beautiful countries in the world. And people have no idea what's going on behind the doors. And then when you hear what's going on, you're like, goodness, the world is changing. We're all, it's very big, but it's also very small. And it's the same in the UK.
Need to get to there.
In the UK, we've got our own worries. And certainly the control, they're behind the scenes trying to like crawl onto you bit by bit, but they're doing it slower. And there have been a hell of a lot of protests over here, peaceful, I have to say. But it's a subject that we were never ever going to sort out all in one night. But it's very interesting to see the differences between us.
There's so many different routes you can go off of that one subject that it would take forever. And then you could deviate off of anything and then go from that onto something else.
We should give a shout out to France, though. Even though they clearly made some dumb decisions with what you mentioned earlier. French farmers, my hat's off to you. That was beautiful.
I
You know, the
absolutely
French
do
government
feel for
must
France.
forget.
I actually have a friend of mine who's in France right now. He lives in France, and he tells me about what goes on. And he was like, "It's not, it's not like it's changed so much, and now it is illegal to actually, in any way or shape or form, if you are discriminatory or rude or cuss it off, anything to do with that whole." um, procedure that happened that we all had to go through and or was forced on a lot of us. They can take you to prison. They can fine you. I think it's up to 43 francs or something, 43,000 francs, something like that.
Yeah,
It's
I
a
saw
lot of
that.
euros. Sorry, it's euros, no, not francs. That tells you my age. Literally, it's like, is this what we've come to now? We get fined and
The
put in
minute something like
jail?
that actually happens under that, though, if the French farmers are any indication, the minute somebody actually gets fined 43,000 euro for saying something about all of that,
A vaccine.
it's gonna turn into a madhouse, and there's gonna be stuff burning. I mean, that's sometimes
Did you remember
it's
what
like,
was it? Piss on a butter meat cake. They forget about the French Revolution.
well,
And Dr.
right,
Gillett,
but it's
uh,
funny because I look at France sometimes, and even with the things over there that I'm kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever. There's some things where it's like, man, you guys got the right idea. Like here in the States, at one point we straight up went to war over taxes. Now,
stamps
somebody
and,
is, oh, we need to raise something, X number of percent per dollar. Like, oh, okay.
Well, I don't think the
They've
UK
read it
monarchy
right out
has
of it.
ever forgotten about the French Revolution. I think it's not something that they always remember, especially as Charles the First got his head cut off by the UK government and Oliver Cromwell, and ever since then, the government doesn't let the monarchy forget that the government is in control. And yes, the Queen or
Yeah.
the late Queen and the King might have certain powers, but then they don't have any powers whatsoever. So
Influence.
Symbolic. Yeah,
not
symbolic.
much, but having said that,
Yeah.
I think that we are in a very delicate world where we seem to be like losing a lot of the things that we once took for granted and had the sovereign right to say, but we can do that. Well, actually, no, we can't do that now. So it's that there's this whole control issue. Michael, I want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank Jason
Yes,
for
ma'am.
joining us. And it's a subject that we'll come back to, that's for sure. Val,
So we have part 2.
I've enjoyed tonight. It's not been the easiest, but I've enjoyed it. How about yourself?
I have. I've got new perspectives on things that, I was kind of iffy about. I understand a few more things that I didn't understand everything about. So, yeah, I mean, it's good to hear other people's opinions on things and know that I can give my opinion and not be,
Absolutely.
down for it. So,
I think it's important that we both and all of us realize that we're all different. We're all individual.
Yeah.
None of us are wrong or right. And I think that the last thing that we have is what's right for us.
right.
And even though I may not agree with someone else's decision about what they think is right for them, if that's what they think is right for them, I can't do anything about it. The only thing I have control over, as much as I wish I had more, is myself, my thoughts and feelings, and my body.
Right.
That's the
Right.
only thing I have control over. And sometimes that makes me feel very, very helpless and very, very vulnerable, because sometimes it doesn't even feel sometimes I have control over that. So it is a subject that's very emotive. Michael, is there anything you want to say before we end the show?
I'm just saying, on that, 52 a day is a real number. Jason sent me a message, said he hit the wrong button, so he dropped out, and he can, co-sign that, because we've all lost brothers and, some sisters to that. And like I said, there's no need for a temporary solution a permanent solution for a temporary problem.
For a temporary situation.
And that's one of that, like, and days look up, and we all have good days and bad days.
Yeah.
Unless you're really, really manic, it goes up and down. And like I said, just surround yourself with good people who have your best interest at heart, and your days will get better. And then,
Right.
And it's like I sent Wendy messages or last night or something, even when I'm feeling down, hurting in the bed, that dog would do something. I'd be like, what the hell? He brought me an orange for no reason. I didn't want to whip him. I'm thinking, where the fuck did he find an orange? Even though I felt like crap, he just brought me an orange. He's like, hey, maybe vitamin C will help. Sometimes and like,
He told you needed some vitamin C, brother.
Pretty much. And like I said, in the training that like Jason and me talk about having, 3 up, 3 down, just find 3 positive things a day. And don't even say, oh, what did I screw up? How can I improve? It's all about wording and mentality. If you have a negative mentality, I see these people glasses half empty all the time. Like Igor or whatever his name is. I always say it wrong. Not Igor. What's his name on Winnie the Pooh?
Eeyore.
Eeyore. Yeah. It's like, God damn, it's going to rain. I don't get wet. Oh, fuck. Water makes the corn grow. Corn makes whiskey. Whiskey makes my baby frisky. You know what I'm saying? The country song saying, Valerie knows what I'm talking about, right? And
I think that Michael's got a good point there when he says, think of 3 things a day that you feel positive about. I think that's a good thing that we can all try. I also think to realize the control that you do have in your life, what you can hold on to, what you don't, and to sometimes accepting the things that you're not in control of is the hardest thing. I want to do this, but I can't. I want to say this, but I haven't been able to. I want to see this, but I can't. I think it's very frustrating sometimes to realize that some things in life, the control is just not in your hands. So
but even the things that are not in your control, the way you react to those things is in your control.
Yes. That's all you can have the control in.
Right.
So I just want to say, anybody who's going through stuff tonight, try and realize that, none of us are really 100% in control. We're all just going along each day, trying to get through the day, trying to be in control where we can, and trying to make us feel better. I really hope, I want to thank everybody that's come on and in the chat room.
Yes,
thankfully, we got here. I once again, thank you for bearing with us. We are so sorry that we weren't here last week. We bit of a tough week last week. And actually, I was saying I was really glad that I didn't come on because there was a really bad dog fight outside my window and it was horrific to listen to, and I had to go down and help, and actually by me doing that helped save that dog's life, and I'm very grateful I could do that. But it wouldn't have been very nice to have been sitting here on the show and everybody in YouTube world and Facebook hearing it. So and we do get a lot of flack. Wicked Women gets a lot of flack if we are not here. We get it on other people's shows. We get other people's opinions.
All of the people who give us flack for when we do the same thing everybody else does can.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because we do get a lot of flack. And it would be quite nice if we got a bit more support, as in, we are here. Even if we come in a bit later, even if we come in the next week, we are here. We enjoy what we do. We love bringing Wicked Women. And I have to tell you, if you actually, and I think I've got this right, it's not open yet, but there is a wickedwomen888.com webpage now. Yes. If you want to type in wickedwomen888.com, you will find, go and do it now, wickedwomen888.com, you will find that the lovely picture comes up and it will say coming soon. And you will find that there's going to be biographies of Val, myself, and some of the other ladies that come on, Michael and etc. And also you'll have to come will be the shop where you can buy your own Wicked products. And this is something that we're all doing in the back street right now, so look out for that. But please go and check wickedwomen888.com. You'll see, and keep an eye on it. You'll see as the weeks go past, it'll open up.
Yeah,
it's quite exciting, really.
Yeah,
I'm just going
hit
to
that like
check
and
that now
subscribe button.
myself.
Share,
Let me just-
hit
wow.
like, share, all that. You know what I'm saying? Tell a friend. If you're pumping your gas, tell the guy in the car beside you. Tell the hairdresser. Tell the guy at the phone store.
There it is. Coming soon.
Yeah.
There it is. Wicked Women. Coming.
yeah.
Let's get rid of
If
that.
he's going to
See,
sell a phone, hey, you know what? I hold my business hostage until they like and subscribe. And I
He
say, hey,
does.
if you're not going to like it, if you're not going to like and subscribe, piss on you, dude. I ain't
he was in
supporting
the
you.
opticians the other day, like and Michael, you're fantastic. You're one of our greatest supporters. So thank you for all that you do
I will
and for
beat
being there.
I will beat them to they like and subscribe. I don't. Yeah. Do not take no for an answer. That's what I say. Just
Val,
Well,
thank you.
I'm working on some different little things, so they will be up there in the shop when it.
And also, I'm also going to bring up, like with Robertson, you have an email to contact Val. There'll be an email to contact me. And also you can, bring up any ideas you want us to talk about. There'll be a biography on Kate and Sabrina and anyone else that comes in, just little things. But it's like, we're slowly getting there. Life has not always made it easy, but just having wickedwomen888.com was just a massive step. That was like, this is the next step for us. So we're grateful to everyone that's come on the journey.
It was so funny how excited we were.
Super excited. And some of the plans we have, and the next thing is I want to get on a plane and get out there to see Val. And Val, thank you so much for tonight and being there for me. I appreciate it.
Anytime, darling.
So let's just run through. I'm going to ask Val to give some of what's coming up in the next week.
KB, Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock, morning coffee.
On Facebook.
On Facebook.
Yep.
Robertson on Tuesday night at
10 o'clock.
9 o'clock UK. So Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Scotty Roberts.
Intrepid Radio.
At 10 o'clock. My time, Eastern. My show Saturday night at 7 o'clock on Facebook, 7 o'clock Eastern on Facebook.
So we need to give people an update. Valerie Rasnake on Facebook, Myth, Legends, and Paranormal. I think that's it, isn't it? 7 o'clock Eastern time, which actually works out about midnight. I think it's about midnight UK.
Yeah.
But her page is a bit more open to the public, so you can find it. Ken Ballos, KB, Castle by the roadside, Monday to Friday round. I think it's around about 2 o'clock UK in the afternoon.
Yeah, because it's 9 here.
9 o'clock, and then Intrepid Radio Show with Scotty Roberts, my podcaster hubster. I think it's 9. Is it 9 o'clock his time?
I think it is his time because it's 10 here.
CT 9, CT Central, 10 o'clock Eastern. Then it goes back on Mountain and left coast.
And then Robertson, 10 o'clock UK time, 4 o'clock Eastern. And Wicked Women will be back 3 o'clock Mountain time, 4 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Eastern, and 10 o'clock UK time. Please come and join us next week. I love you, Val.
Love you, Wendy.
And Michael, love you to pieces. Thank you so much. We will see you all next week, guys. Have a great week. In the meantime, sorry, I'm just looking for the music here. Take care of yourselves. Be kind to yourselves and to other people, because you never know what someone's going through. See you next week,
That's right.
guys. Bye.